What is going on, guys? Pat Damiano here, and today we're going to be learning how to do a club 360. Now, in the club world, you might hear different terminology for this exercise, like shield cast or gamma cast, which is a 360 around the head, but it has a different name depending on which shoulder you're going over and which hand you have on top. While yes, they technically are different, I just like to go with 360 because I tend to be teaching people who are fairly new to this stuff, so I like to keep it as simple as possible. So in my world, if it's spinning around your head, no matter what direction or what hand is on top, I call it a 360. It just makes things simpler. Now, when you are new, I do want you practicing going over both shoulders, but in regards to which hand you have on top, I'm not overly concerned with that just yet. So if it's your right hand on top, because that feels more comfortable, go for it. If it's your left hand, then go for that as well. If you don't know, try out both and see which one feels more comfortable for you. Now again, we're talking about small details here that you can worry about a little bit later in your club journey. So again, if you're brand new, I just want you to figure out which one feels most comfortable on top and stick with that. So when it comes to learning the 360, I have three main cues that we use. And the first one is going to be block the sword. So you're gonna get your club up in this front position right here. And from here, all you're going to do is lift your hands and tilt that club to the side. Imagine somebody is coming to chop your body in half using a big sword. You're going to block it by lifting up and tilting to the side. Blocking the sword is going to teach you to get your hands up nice and high so you create a nice space for your hands to go behind your head, and so you start to tilt the club and we can start that pendulum motion. Your second cue is going to be slick your hair back or comb your hair back. Now what this is going to do is really make sure our hands are getting behind our head in the club and we're not just twirling the club above our head. So we're going to block the sword and then slick our hair back. Like I said, you can see my hands are nice and deep behind my head. We really want to be using this exercise to open up our shoulders and lats, and making sure your hands are deep behind your head is going to do that. A way I like to describe this to people is, if I'm standing in front of you, your hands should disappear for a split second behind your head. So if you have access to a mirror, this is a great exercise to learn while standing in front of a mirror. From there, your third cue is going to be put your seatbelt on. This cue is going to help us guide the club back into the starting position and teach us how to keep it nice and close to us and the path that we want our upper body to go. So we have block the sword, comb our hair back, put our seatbelt on, and this club ends up right where we started with our hands right around our belly button in this front position. Again, block the sword, comb your hair back, put your seatbelt on. Now ideally you have a club that is light enough for you that you can control and do it the way I just demonstrated, where you're going to pause at each one of those cues. Block the sword, slick your hair back, and put your seatbelt on. You should be able to do it that slow and that controlled in the beginning. That way you can really feel each position and get an idea of the path that your club and hands are going to be taking throughout this exercise. Now, as you start to get comfortable with that, what we do is just slowly take out those pauses and make it a little bit more of one fluid motion. So we can still go slow and smooth, but make it one fluid motion, as you can see right here. Block the sword, comb our hair back, put the seatbelt on. Block the sword, comb the hair back, put the seatbelt on. It's still slow and controlled, but it's a little bit more fluid. Now that right there is the baseline basics of doing a club 360, and for most people, that's where I stop them initially and just let them practice that over and over again until they really start to get comfortable with that movement and the pattern and build the mobility for the exercise. Now, as we start to get a little bit more advanced and heavier, we're going to want to start to get our lower body in the mix just a little bit more, because that's going to allow us to rotate a little bit more with our obliques and our hips, which at the end of the day is one of the main reasons we are swinging clubs and doing this exercise. Is it is a fantastic exercise to rotate in ways that a lot of other exercises and traditional gym equipment isn't going to let us. So as you start to feel a lot more comfortable with the basic foundations on each side, then you're going to start to add a little bit more of a rotation with your hips and really start to turn those hips and use our obliques to get this club back up and over our shoulder. This is going to be more powerful and more efficient, and when we get into heavier club swings, it's going to be a lot safer. Because right now, I can just use this 25-pound club and not really use my hips that much and do the motion fairly comfortably. But as I get this 45-pound one in my hand, I'm gonna need to use my hips and really rotate pretty aggressively to get it back up and over. Because if I just use my upper body, which I'm not gonna demonstrate for you, it's not gonna go that well, it's not gonna be efficient, and my shoulders probably aren't gonna like it. And one of the ways I like to tell people to really make sure they are using their hips as efficiently is to make sure their feet are staying flat on the ground. So you're gonna press your big toes and your heels into the ground. So that way when I rotate, I can be nice and aggressive and have a nice solid base to rotate my hips. Because as you'll see here, if my feet come off the ground at all, I'm gonna lose a lot of my power and a lot of my torque. I want a nice solid base, nice athletic position, so I can rotate my hips aggressively and not get thrown off balance with 45 pounds swinging around my head. And that is how you do a club 360. Now, like I said, that is the baseline. There is more intricacies that goes with this exercise, a little bit more terminology and going different directions and so on and so forth. But if you're fairly new to it, you are going to do just fine by sticking with these basics that we went over today. And as you get a little bit more comfortable with that, you can start to get a little bit more detailed and a little bit more advanced. Guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed that video and I hope you got some value out of it. If you do have any questions after watching this, please do not hesitate to shoot a question in the comments below and I will get back to you ASAP. I'll see you guys next time.